Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Wednesday night. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I almost just had a guest appearance from Moonbeam, who decided to jump on the desk as we were starting the show, as she did during the install today. So for those of you who are watching on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel, when you see my arm outstretched and a muzzle over the camera as I try to fend the cat off as Greg Cosell dissects how exactly it was that the Tennessee Titans upset the Dolphins on Monday Night Football, then you will be intimately familiar with the newest member of my household, temporary though she may be. Anyway, we're not here to talk cats or Cosell, although we will do some Cosell stuff tomorrow, and the newest episode of The Install is available to you right now. Hell, she's peering over the top of my laptop right now, so perhaps we'll even get a muzzle debut in the middle of the primetime show as well. I'm sure that will be smooth. Anyway, we are going to talk about Kristian Fulton. Kristian Fulton was placed on injured reserve today and was not informed that he was placed on injured reserve until the locker room was open to media before he had to start fielding questions. He would have never been in there to field questions had he been informed that he was on injured reserve prior to the media session. So I'm going to explain to you the weirdness of that, why it looks like that Kristian Fulton's time here is likely done. And then we'll get into some other players on the defense who stepped up despite the injuries across the board on Monday night. We'll do rising and falling before we wrap this thing up, as is the custom on a Wednesday, and we'll enjoy each other's company over the course of the next half hour and change. It is truly a wonder how we get anything done around here as a production unit when there is a one cat trying to climb over the top of my laptop, another one preventing half of my ass cheek from being on my office chair, and a shirtless Robert Walsh whose headphones are hanging off half of his head, trying to patchwork it all together with duct tape, basically the way that his headset is currently. Either way, we soldier on, and we ask you to share this show around. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, you can like the video. You can subscribe to the channel. Speaking of YouTube, Adam Weber says, just watch the latest episode of The Install. It was awesome. Well, if you like that so much, Adam, you can be like Adam and go watch The Install on YouTube. Subscribe to the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel while you're there. Like that video while you like this one as well. Sam says, oh, Buck, as a cat owner, I can say cats own the place and they just let you be in their world. Except that's not the case, Sam, because all three of these bastards are strays around here, and none of them belong in the house. They are creatures of the night. They are creatures of the alley, and instead they exist in my home. It's terrible. Anyway, we can't get distracted by cat talk tonight. If you're on Facebook Live like Lamar Daniels or Danny Whitson, you can like the video. You can share now to public. That is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And as you do that, we'll go ahead and talk about the curious case of Kristian Fulton and what exactly has happened over the course of his 4 years here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing done. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the great folks at the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, Amanda J. and her team are there to serve you. Go to amandajgentry.com for more information. Zen Sports, download the Zen Sports app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, and they will match your first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 on your no danger first wager when you use our A to Z promo code. And of course, True Math Fitness in the Gulch. No workout puts you in better position to succeed than the great coaching staff at the best facility in downtown Nashville. True Math Fitness in the Gulch, truemathfitness.com, where your first workout is free. All right, so this Kristian Fulton shit today is weird. And I don't know for sure that he's not going to be back in 2024, or that they wouldn't try to re-sign him in some form or fashion, but it sure as hell doesn't seem like that is the direction that they're heading. They placed him and Kyle Pecco, the defensive tackle, on injured reserve today, which, in the absence of more Miami-like miracles happening, they are not going to make the playoffs, and they would be required to then miss 4 games, not 4 weeks, but 4 games. And at this point in the season, all those things are the same. So for the purposes of Kristian Fulton, his season here is done, and that likely means that his career with the Tennessee Titans is done. And I wonder how you all feel about that. So I would ask you in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, will Kristian Fulton return to the Titans next year? We will discuss it together right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is presented by Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people, quality American-made Ford vehicles, and award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford has everything that you could want or need. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, where DeAndre Hopkins is a customer, where Coach Mack and I both got our Ford Explorers, and where you will enjoy the kind of quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service that only they can provide, have provided to Middle Tennesseans over their 40 years of existence and on into the future. TwoRiversFord.com for more information. So, will Kristian Fulton be back with the Titans next year? He's done, says Desi. TK says his fate is the same as David Long, except Vrabel might hate Fulton more at the moment. I don't know that Mike Vrabel hates Kristian Fulton. I think Mike Vrabel, and I don't know that Mike would say that he hates any of them in an honest moment. I think that guys that he can't deal with are jettisoned from the roster, i.e. Monty Rice, right? I think Monty Rice is more of an example of a malcontent that Vrabel couldn't reach and didn't have the patience to try and continue to try and reach. And so, his time here came to a pretty decisive end after being drafted in the third round in 2021. So then there is Kristian Fulton, who struggles this year as far as his play is concerned, not just with his health, which ultimately ends his season, but had a roller coaster ride of a year. And I'll bring up his Pro Football Focus numbers to kind of articulate a little better just how much of a struggle this was for Kristian Fulton throughout the course of the year, because he started out as one of the worst cover corners in football throughout the course of the first month of the season, then had a really nice stretch of about 4 or 5 games. Still is their most talented corner overall, but it didn't really ever consistently come together. So for what it's worth, let's take a look. Well, we'll take a look at, and you'll hear from Kristian Fulton here in just a second. In fact, let's hear from Kristian Fulton about being placed on injured reserve, about his future in Tennessee, and then we'll get into some of the numbers on him.
It's just the process, that you gotta go through. Not happy about it, but just live and you learn, and just hope to see what's to come next.
Kristian, you were so confident in the summer that everything you'd done this offseason, your training, had put you in a place that it would be different this year.
Yeah.
Is it extra frustrating because it didn't turn out the way you expected?
Sweating. Yeah, it is. Cause like I said, I feel like I have done everything, to stay on the field, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. Go figure, I guess.
Where do you go from here? I mean, I know obviously the first step is to get healthy, but
Yeah.
contract is up in March.
Yeah. You gotta let it play out. There's still a lot of season left. I know we went out. We still got to change. Playoffs or whatever. So that's just the main goal. I'm gonna do what I can. To help the guys around while I'm still around in the locker room or in the film room. But yeah, you gotta see where it goes from the end of the season, from now to the end of the season.
At what point did you feel like this might be season ending, might linger? Did you kind of feel like you'd be able to come back, or what led on IR this season?
I don't know. I just found out myself. So, like I said, I was gonna try to get back for the team. I knew we had 5 games left, so I was gonna do what I can to help.
Did it surprise you you were put on IR? Did they kind of tell you?
Y'all could talk to Brave about it, about how that went down. So I don't know. I just found out, like I said.
I know it's frustrating for you. Anybody who, has been here, has dealt with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
What do you turn to just in terms of keeping that hope and positive attitude, whether it's playing here next year or somewhere else where you can continue your career?
The thing is, for me, I know injuries happen, and like I said, I went through all the precautions, I changed diet, everything, that I could to stay healthy, and it didn't work out. So, like I said, I know I did my part at the end of the day. I went the extra mile for my team, and it didn't work out. So I can't be mad at that. I'm glad I'm alive. You know, I'm blessed to be in this position, and you know, you gotta see where it goes.
Has it been the same?
Okay, so that's a pretty crazy sequence in the second half of that 2-minute video where he's being asked questions about, did he think he was going to be able to come back? And he was saying, yeah, I planned to come back for the team. And then I was just told that I was put on IR basically as he walked into the locker room today. So we're going to flesh that out here in just a minute because it's weird right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the great folks at Zen Sports. Download the Zen Sports app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, and they will match your first bet up to $1,000 on your no danger first wager. Whether it's football, college, bowl games are on the horizon. Of course, the NFL. We've got a Saturday triple header. There's going to be all kinds of basketball and hockey into the winter and spring. Zen Sports is your place to wager. So download the app, plug in that promo code. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 or up in Tennessee to bet. So, will Kristian Fulton be back with the Titans? My answer is going to be probably no. I think he's going to get paid somewhere. I think he's going to play well somewhere. I wouldn't be shocked if that place was Philadelphia because I know that they wanted him in the draft. So, how Kristian Fulton's time with the Titans has come to an end here is pretty bizarre. And again, if he's one of these that goes on to Philly to succeed or really goes on anywhere to succeed, people are going to want Vrabel's head for it. But something between here's what I'll say. Okay. Kristian Fulton is in a tough spot because not only is he drawing a lot of your guys' ire, and let me say, from his play this year, I don't want to say that it's largely earned because a lot of you guys go to extremes. And certainly, the people that sent Sean Murphy Bunting death threats are scum of the earth. And, not that I would threaten physical or violence or otherwise against people who do that kind of stuff. But also, I don't wish good things upon you if you're somebody who treats athletes that way. So Kristian Fulton, it's not been a good year for Kristian Fulton in a contract year when they really needed him, right? So it's Fulton, it's Dillard, it's Burks. 3 critical areas of the football team that this team really needed to kind of step up in a big spot. And, they just didn't get that from any of them. Now, I think Kristian Fulton, of those 3 players who disappointed, I think Kristian Fulton is the least disappointing of those 3. And that doesn't mean that that's a good thing or not, but it's been a struggle for him for a variety of different reasons. And now an injury ultimately ends his season, but it doesn't sound like it was a season-ending injury to him. It sounds like they told him, yeah, just to kind of not complicate this thing, we're going to go ahead and shut it down. And you get healthy for the offseason and you can, basically take your talents elsewhere because you're not going to be able to help us here. I don't know what the relationship between Vrabel and Fulton is. I know it's been different than a lot of the players that I've covered under Mike Vrabel. At least it seems that way from an outsider's perspective. And, like I said, I think he's going to go on to be a fine player elsewhere. But it's just something here there's something here that's a pretty big disconnect. And I can't for the life of me figure out why. Wasn't he ranked 123 out of 126 corners per PFF? Says Nate, well, I've got PFF, and I don't know in terms of if that's like a grade ranking, but I'm looking at his game-by-game results this year. So as a cover corner for the Titans this year, Kristian Fulton had only two pass breakups on the season. He didn't have a single interception. He allowed 3 touchdowns on the year. And listen, he's part of a good red zone defense, and Kristian Fulton did well in the red zone, as did the rest of the Titans defensive unit. So looking at the rest of these, he was penalized 6 times in 13 games that he appeared in. As far as, let's see, yards after the catch that he allowed. He allowed 130 yards after the catch. He allowed 15.6 yards per reception on the season. When he was the primary defender in coverage, quarterbacks were completing 72.5% of their passes. So he had a bad year. He had an objectively bad year. I don't think it's exclusively his fault. I think there's a lot of different things there that failed him, but by far and away of all the seasons that Kristian Fulton has had here since getting drafted in 2020, this was his worst season by a considerable margin. I don't know why that disconnect is. I can't explain it. Only Kristian Fulton and the Titans coaching staff can explain it, but I would expect that this would be the end of Kristian Fulton's time in Tennessee. Now, to the commenter's question earlier, let me see if I can pull up his total coverage grade, or where he ranks among qualified corners and in terms of coverage. We'll just do Pro Football Focus coverage grades. So I've got here, out of 200 corners that qualify for this. Let's see where Kristian Fulton ranks. Kristian Fulton by Pro Football Focus grade on the season. Does anybody want to take a guess? Perhaps shirtless Bert? I don't know whether anybody's going to get there in time. Where do you think, of 200 qualified cornerbacks per Pro Football Focus coverage grade, do we think that Kristian Fulton ranked this year? Danny Whitson says last. B-Birds 18 says 183. Bert in our private chat says 116. Shady Productions 153. Of qualified corners in terms of their Pro Football Focus, and again, this is a very, very specific place that we're ranking him, but of Pro Football Focus coverage grades, Kristian Fulton was 180th out of 200 qualified corners. He's sandwiched between Titans legend Adoree Jackson, who was the 181st ranked corner in coverage this year, and somebody named Danny Johnson, which sounds like a Madden creative player for the Washington Commanderskins football team. So Kristian Fulton with a season grade in coverage of 46.9 per Pro Football Focus. So yeah, it's pretty bad. TK says, and he called himself a top corner in the NFL today. That's the thing. Like, all the draft evaluators that I talked to, him coming out of LSU, said that he was that guy. The first couple of seasons of him, I mean, really, the first 3 seasons of him, once they got his position right on the outside in this defense, I don't know that I thought he was like the best corner in the league, but I definitely thought you could make the case for him being a functional, top option as a corner. And I mean, it just cratered. It cratered. And like that came out of nowhere. Really came out of absolute nowhere. I don't know where that disconnect is. Again, whether that's physical, whether that's mental, whether he was pressing this year, whether, having the contract situation off his back at the end of this offseason will help him play better. But I mean, it just, that's a disaster, right? A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented. Bert points out why I'm gonna give you a funny note that Bert just pointed out to me here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. She cannot protect you against bad cornerback play, but what she can protect you against is your constitutional rights being violated. Amanda J. Gentry practices in Tennessee criminal and family courts in 35 counties across the state of Tennessee. Her and her team go above and beyond to serve you. Wherever justice demands is that what they mean, and they mean what they say. AmandaJGentry.com for more information. David Clement says, of the Pro Football Focus numbers, am I serious? Yes, that is absolutely something that I'm serious about. I'm looking at my Pro Football Focus account now. He was never a top corner in this league. No, I'm not saying that he was a top corner in this league. I'm not agreeing with that assessment. I'm just saying that, I thought he could be good enough to be like the top corner here, right? There was nothing to indicate prior to this year that he couldn't do that other than his general lack of availability. That was the only question around Kristian Fulton this year. there was never nobody ever denied his talent or that he was a good player in the system. It's pretty wild to see. I'm guessing he is soft and can't handle Vrabel's style, says Tyke. I don't think that's a Vrabel thing. Like, listen, Mike is definitely a different kind of person to work under, but he's not that much different from every other football coach. Like, he's got his own personality, and there are some quirks that can rub people the wrong way, certainly. And listen, Kristian Fulton is not the only player that I know has had problems with Vrabel this year. So that doesn't have to be 100% on Kristian Fulton. And to say that, a professional athlete is soft in the league, Andre Dillard is the only player that I've been around that I can comfortably say I've seen a lack of competitive toughness from. Beyond that, I haven't seen, or Kevin Dodd is somebody who I've also seen a lack of competitive toughness from. But that's 2 players in 7 seasons covering the NFL that I'm comfortable saying that about. I don't think that Kristian Fulton is soft. Kristian Fulton wasn't too soft. Ed Orgeron is not an easy person to play for. Kristian Fulton wasn't too soft for Ed O when he was winning national championships at LSU. There's just something amiss there. And, whether we get the answer to that question or not, I don't know. Keith Thomas wants to know where McCreary ranks. That's a good question. Let's take a look at, since we're here, and this is the first time actually that I've looked through Pro Football Focus's like just coverage grades. Let's take a look at a 200 qualified corners where Sean Murphy Bunting is. He's 143rd. Out of 200 qualified cornerbacks. And for Roger McCreary, he is 61st between Chidobe Awuzie and CJ Goodwin. Bert pointed out earlier to me that the player who ranked just above Kristian Fulton in terms of coverage grade this year, Danny Johnson, was released by the Commanders today. So that's tough. Josh Sabata says, how's Harris as a coach? Chris Harris is regarded as somebody who was a big asset in coaching hiring circles. He didn't even agree to take he was hired by Mike Vrabel's coaching staff, but didn't officially sign his paperwork until such time as he concluded that there weren't defensive coordinator opportunities out there. A lot of people tried to hire Chris Harris this offseason. It was a bit of a coup for the Titans coaching staff to add him at that point. But yeah, I mean, listen, Shane Bowen and the Titans defensive coaching staff had a hell of a game on Monday Night Football. In fact, Greg Cosell called it the best moment of Shane Bowen's career here in Tennessee today on the podcast. And I invite you to go hear Cosell's analysis of just why that was. But Vrabel wasn't on the coaching staff when Adoree Jackson was drafted here. He was obviously when Kristian Fulton was drafted here. And then there's the Caleb Farley thing, which makes the corner situation even more pressing because Caleb Farley is in. There's no sign of Caleb Farley playing football this season. I don't think that. I don't anticipate Caleb Farley playing football this season. Perhaps something will change. But not with 4 weeks left to play. I just don't see that guy being taken off the PUP list. So we'll see what happens with guys like Trey Avery, but there's no question that Kristian Fulton was the most talented corner that they had. It just, for some reason, that talent did not manifest itself into competent cornerback play this year. Brent Wood says Farley will never play football ever again, especially not with the Titans. I don't know if he'll never play football again, but yeah, I mean, I bet Caleb Farley's. I don't know how they're going to handle the Caleb Farley situation. I do not envy them in this Caleb Farley situation. I think the whole thing is pretty bad. But Fulton or Farley, I don't anticipate them being back next year. And Stuart Peeler says kid's been through too much. Yeah, I don't know what you do with him. You can't keep him on the roster out of pity. And I don't think he would want to be kept on the roster out of pity, but man, I hate to see him cut after all the different things that he's been through without really anything to show for it as a former first round pick. Caleb's situation is tough. Anyway. So now let's turn our attention to something a bit more positive. Harold Landry won the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He had a career day, 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits in Miami. You'll hear from Harold Landry here in just a second. The question that I want to ask you is this. How would you describe Harold Landry's 2023 season, since we're doing some season-long evaluation of players tonight? How would you describe Harold's? We'll talk about it together, and then I'll let him talk for himself right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMavFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident, and even better, listen, if you're not doing anything on this coming Saturday at 10 a.m., before you sit down and watch the NFL triple header, TrueMav Fitness is giving out a free group fitness class this Saturday at 10 a.m. if you bring a toy, a gift for a child for them to donate. And I want to make sure that I get the outlet that they're donating to correct here. They just posted about it on their Instagram story today, and I want to make sure that I direct you guys or make sure I give you guys the correct information here. So supporting Nashville Children's Hospital, of course, a free class with a toy donation Saturday, this Saturday, 12/16, 10 a.m. Is how you can get involved. TrueMathFitness.com for more information. It would be great to see some of you guys out there. I'm going to be out there hanging around, and we would love if you would bring a toy to donate before you sweat out whatever you're going to spend your Saturday triple header in the NFL doing. Titan Kong on Harold Landry says he is slowly but surely making progress. Josh Sabata says ramping up at the right time, Landry is. Stewart, he's performing ahead of expectations. He looks 100%. So I don't know that he looks 100%. And the Dolphins were down 3 offensive line starters on Sunday, but I'm not going to tell Titans fans, that injuries don't count for anything, because certainly this franchise understands that better than most. But, I would describe Harold Landry as it's been reassuring to see him kind of return to form down the stretch this way, because it was a slog for him at the start of the season. Was not really an impact player until, really felt like the last month Harold started to come on in a real way, and that he had his best performance on national television this late in the season, provided that he continued to stay healthy. It's a good sign about cashing in on that big contract that they handed out to him last offseason.
I think it could build a lot of confidence because when you watch the tape, I feel like we did a lot of good things as a team, and I think we played to our values and the culture that we have here. And I just think you can build a lot of confidence from a win like that, and hopefully we can string it together and continue to do things we did well and improve on the things that we got to work on and get a win in a divisional game.
Even without Jeff, and he was saying, I'm going to try to make it back this weekend, but without him, even you guys able to get pressure, you guys able to get those sacks. What's been working as of late with this front?
I just think the more we play together, the better we play together. And I think just going out there and focusing on executing the game plan at a high level is also a big reason for that. I felt like we had a great game plan going into the game, and I just felt like we went out there and executed as a group at a high level.
When it comes to you and your health, I feel like, when you talked to us at the beginning of the year, you felt great, but it's different when you're in game action. You maybe don't feel exactly how you did when you were 100% healthy. You feel like you have just gotten into that groove now, and you're kind of back to your normal self.
Yeah, I just feel like you get better at football the more you play it, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like as the season gone on, and, in any NFL season, there's going to be ups and downs. You just got to stay the course and keep working and keep practicing and keep focusing on improving, and, everything will fall into place. And that's really all I've been trying to focus on, is just improving each week and trying to make a bigger impact every game.
You got the throwbacks this weekend again, obviously against Houston. What's kind of the biggest challenge with their offense that has been productive, obviously, when C.J. Stroud has been in?
Right. He's a talented player, and, it's going to be all hands on deck when rushing him. They're a talented team. You can see that, they're playing hard for their head coach, and we got to make sure that, like I said, we go out there and we execute at a high level against them.
And nothing really different, because you've seen Davis Mills too. So if he plays, that probably won't change much.
Exactly. We just got to make sure that we go out there and we handle our part, which is executing at a high level.
That's Harold Landry, your AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Karen O'Keefe says, flat hair Harold. Edward Hayford says, stop putting him in coverage and blitz this guy. Okay, well, that ignores how effective their defense is and why they do that. So I feel like, and that's fine, if we have to address that from time to time, because there is a reason why they get it done. It allows them to be more multiple with their defense. It allows them to do things like they do to Tua and do to Josh Allen when they have success against them, to do to Mahomes, honestly. It's called a zone exchange pressure, all right, where you rush 4, but you make the quarterback think for a fraction of a second longer when the ball is snapped. And I'm only giving you guys this information like somebody who speaks X's and O's on a regular basis, because Cosell has explained this to me time in and time out, and I understand the application. I've talked to the coaching staff about it. I get why they do it, and frankly, why it works. When you do those zone exchange pressures, if you can get the quarterback to hold the ball for a fraction of a second, like Tua on Monday night, then it gives you an opportunity to get there faster. It gives you the opportunity to capitalize or to get an errant throw out of the quarterback. And Harold is good enough in coverage that he can handle it. The Pittsburgh Steelers did that with Bud Dupree for years with a lot of success. The Titans did it here with Bud Dupree and Harold Landry when they're available. If you have players that are versatile, like the definition of versatility, then it allows you to do more as a defense, to confuse up front, to still win the coverage battle with numbers when you do a zone exchange and you rush 4, but you drop the outside linebacker and bring pressure up the A-gap from the inside linebacker, right? Or if you bring the slot corner and drop the outside linebacker as your 4th rusher. They did that with Logan Ryan for years. This is a very, very high-level player for a variety of different reasons, and he is capable of doing that. There is a method to it, even if you think it to be madness, and it is something that is an incredibly successful tool that they have used over the years with legitimate effect. So I don't get bent out of shape about it. Now, is it going to be perfect every time? Are there going to be moments where you see Harold that looks like he might be out there in coverage or the only person in a zone against a wide receiver and something bad happens and you freak out about it? Sure, those things are going to happen. But on the whole, that is a good defensive play, and it allows them to do different things out of similar looking defensive fronts, right? Just to try and confuse and make things happen. The last sack was not a rush by him, says Josh. This is what I'm saying. Like, Harold moves well in space. That's why they do this shit. The last sack was not a rush by him. He spied and played catch as he moved out of the pocket. He is a good player. I understand why you are quick to jump on Bowen and Vrabel's backs right now. I would say to you that's not something to freak out too much about, even though I get why it looks optically like something that you would not want to do. Daniel Green says, I thought you said Tua was the quickest at getting the ball. LOL of your own pregame debacle. You said we wasn't. Well, I said you weren't. I didn't say that you wasn't going to sack him. I said you weren't going to sack him. So let's start there. And then Daniel says, we did 5 times, sir. Tighten up. Yeah, you did something that nobody else has done this year against 3 new or backup Dolphins offensive linemen and a quarterback who got flustered. You did the thing that you needed to do. It was less about the rush than it was about the coverage. I think that's kind of, if anything, I think that proves my point. They didn't necessarily get there because the pass rush was having such great success. They flustered Tua. They caused him to hold the ball. It allowed the rush to get there. Those are coverage sacks. In fact, I think that played out exactly how you wanted it to play out. You just beat the Dolphins at the game that you needed to beat them at, right? So if anything, you've just proved, I'm not going to say it's my point. It was Greg Cosell's point about how you go about defending the Dolphins. They just did so better than anybody else has this year. And that's probably not something you had on your bingo cards. But I understand why, if you're box score scouting, the 5 sacks might confuse you. But yeah, there's a reason why that happened that way. MB says, Buck, if they constantly pass rush him too, he'll get worn down. That's right. He plays a ton of snaps, and he's one of their best players. They want to keep him out on the field as much as humanly possible, talking about Harold. So again, there is methods to the madness on this stuff. Anyway, let's keep it moving on this Wednesday evening. Josh Sabata says, listen to Cosell before the game on disrupting the timing, and they did that. It was fun to see the effect it had. Listen, Greg knows what he's talking about. Like, when you can see these things play out in real time as Cosell has described them on the podcast. I personally enjoy it, so I know the audience enjoys it as well. Let's see. David Clement says, Buck, you are dead wrong on our pass rush, and I played defensive line at the D1 level. Well, frankly, sir, I don't care about your credentials as far as defensive line is concerned. I've watched defensive linemen for 7 years in the NFL. Does that make me more qualified than the person that played defensive line at the D1 level? No, not necessarily, but I'm watching them win up front while having coverage consistency the way that we talked about and getting to be hesitant. That's exactly the way that it played out, David. I mean, you can see this stuff on the tape. The fact that he had one of his worst average time to throws of the year is all the evidence that I need. You can sit there with a stopwatch and time how much longer Tua is holding the ball compared to the, what was it, 2.3, was it 2.33 seconds on average time to throw for Tua this year. So again, I'm happy to take your credentials as far as where and when you played defensive line. And we're grateful that we have former athletes or current athletes that watch this show and can contribute feedback from time to time. But like I'm saying, I've got Cosell walking me through this. I got the coaching staff walking me through this every week. So I appreciate your feedback on that, but I'm just telling you that it's running directly against what the people who study the tape are telling us. So anyway, let's keep it moving. Rising and falling. Whose stock rose? Whose stock fell? This week in sports, we'll talk about it together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Harold Landry, stock up. Kristian, Fulton, stock down. We can start there. Certainly. We'll go through those things together right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com and get your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found courtesy of the Ashton team. So, whose stock up, whose stock went up, and whose stock fell this week in sports? There's a couple of different nominees that I think you can pick from. Tua Tagovailoa, without Tyreek Hill in the lineup, stock down. I think that's a fair assessment. I would say that the Miami Dolphins defense, giving up points late, I know they kept them in that game for the majority of it, but the Dolphins did what the Titans defenses kind of had happened to them all along. When the offense couldn't get it together, the defense kind of collapsed in a big spot and allowed the Titans to capitalize. It's I'm sure you guys enjoyed seeing the inverse effect of that, having been on the receiving end of it so many times in weeks past. But the person whose stock rose the most is Will Levis, as far as I'm concerned, and I thought that was voiced very well by his top wide receiving option on Monday night.
DeAndre, Jeffrey Simmons just came over and said, come on and take over their trap. All the talk coming into this game was about the Dolphins. What did you guys show in that fourth quarter coming back and taking this victory?
We showed resiliency, showed that we wanted to win. No matter what our records say, we're going to compete. We're going to go out there and play hard. And, you seen that today. We had a turnover on the punt return. We didn't let that phase us, man. Went out there and kept competing.
For yourself, 124 yards, a touchdown.
124?
Yeah.
140 something.
Maybe.
You were broadcasting.
I saw 124, but maybe. You're playing against two top corners in Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, but you came up on top on this day. What does that feel like for you?
Man, it feels great, especially all the people that didn't want me, all the teams that, wrote me off, said I wasn't no good, said I can't go out there and get open, can't compete. It feels good, man. I play with a chip on my shoulder, especially when this all season, it seemed like everybody said, F you,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it feels good to be able to show that I still got it. To me, I feel like I'm getting better, man.
If that's what they told you this offseason, what did you tell them today?
Hey, man, God got the last say, love all, serve all. That's my motto.
Last one, your quarterback, Will Levis, is a rookie, but what did you see in him, and especially in that fourth quarter as he's leading you guys for the comeback?
I saw a dog out here today. That kid is going to be great, man. I'm always in his ear trying to help him, read defenses and be better. I know he still got a lot in his tank. I know he can improve, even though, he came out here and beat these guys today, but I'm going to still be on the Monday when we go back and let him know that there are certain things that he can improve on. But, man, Will show heart. Man, I love competing and playing with him.
Appreciate you, DeAndre. Enjoy this one, my man. Absolutely. Sure.
So that is DeAndre Hopkins with Cam Wolfe after the game. I saw a dog, says Edward Hayford. That's right. Jared Hall says, hardly no sound at all. Okay, we'll turn up your volume. I don't know what to tell you. That's entirely incumbent upon your control. Also, Bert's not paying attention because it's the end of the show, so I don't think he can fix your volume problems for you. You have a volume button at your disposal. Anyway, that is what we're going to leave you with on this Wednesday night. The primetime show tomorrow will be a lot of fun. We'll have you guys there at the 2-minute warning of Thursday Night Football. Interesting Thursday Night Football game. If you're looking for advantages for the Titans to still try and sneak into the postseason, you could use a Raiders win against the Chargers tomorrow as you try and jack your team into the postseason. Phrasing, absolutely. So with that being said, radio show from 10 to 1, Arden Key will play high key, low key. That will be a great time together, and we'll certainly enjoy that. That'll be at 12:15. And Cam Wolf, who interviewed DeAndre Hopkins, our buddy from the NFL Network, he'll be on the radio show on Friday. So that will be a great time had by all. Have a great rest of your evening. See you tomorrow morning on the radio show at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue. This is our Colts. Whether win or lose, we love them. For the shoe, beat the Titans. Let the world hear us now. This is our team. Go Colts.